okay, none of that's here. So why am I here? Because I don't think I belong here. I don't think I belong in this group. I don't know. And even now when I meet with a group of pastors and everybody's coming at everything from a completely different angle from me, and I'm going, what is the deal with that? Why am I always so hard-headed? Why am I always the one that's got to see everything the way I see it? Why am I the one that always asks 800 questions that no one wants to answer? Why am I always the one that goes, I don't think that's a good idea, because if you do that, well, then this is going to happen, and I can see what the trail of where this is going to lead, and it's going to lead here, and I don't think that's where you want to go, and everybody goes, huh? And I just spend a lot of time going, but don't you see that that's where this is going to end up, that we're going to do this, and then this will happen, and then it's just all going to be a mess, and that no, we don't want to do that. And then it's because, the last couple of years I discovered why I'm that person. For a long time, I've now been a parent of autistic boys for over 30 years. And way back in the day when we started doing this, we got told, oh, it doesn't run in families. It just pops up spontaneously. That's all it is. Don't worry about it. Well, in the last 30 years, they've done a lot more research, and they're like, it actually does kind of run in families. You should look at your family tree. So I did my homework, being the nerd that I am. I did my homework. And I went, oh, it's me. It's me. I'm the one who's on the spectrum, not my husband, not my uncles, not my dad. It's me. But I had a good memory, and I could, imitate people and copy what I needed to do, and no problem. I could skate through somehow through life. But what it meant was that I was always a little bit on the outside. I was never in the cool kids. I was never in the group of popular kids. Never. Oh, never. And then I was in band. Oh, horror. I was the band geek at the smart kid. So heaven forbid. That just ruined my social life. But I realized some of the things that are gifts are things other people don't have. It never occurred to me that other people literally can't see like a gigantic filing cabinet in their head where all the facts are stored. That never occurred to me until I was in my 30s. And I went, oh, other people don't have that? Because that's just been my reality as long as I can remember. I taught myself how to read when I was 3.5 because I memorized what all the words look like. That's not normal. I didn't know that because it's all I ever knew. So for me, when I read Moses' story, I'm like, please send someone else. Yes, because I'm not the right person for this. Why are you sending me? What am I supposed to be bringing? Because I'm not the most spiritual person in the world. I'm not the one who's going to hold everybody's hand. I am not the one who's, the best at comforting, because I'm more like, well, life happens, I always joke the best pastoral care I ever got, I'd gone in for a cancer biopsy many years ago. And when I discovered that I didn't have cancer, a friend of mine, fellow seminarian, called me, Carl. God, I love Carl. And Carl said, so, what did you find out? What's going on? And I said, well, I found out it's not cancer. I said, so I'm not dying. And he said, Kristen, we're all dying. And I said, not today. I am not dying today. He said, well, we're all dying. Thank you, good Calvinist that you are. But yes, we are, but not today. Not today. And so Moses is in this same vein. I don't feel up to this challenge. I don't feel adequate to what you're asking of me. I don't feel like I have the gifts, the skills, and the talents to do this job. Why are you sending me? Send anybody else. Anybody has to be better at this than I am. I can't be the only one who hears themselves in that. There has to be somebody better than me. There has to be. In this whole huge world God created, there has to be somebody better than me to send. Why me? And this whole passage is the beginning of this relationship between Moses and God. And it becomes this three-way relationship because you add the elders in too. And that's a big part of what Moses is having trouble with. It's not the God part, it's the, what do I tell these people? Why? They're not going to believe me. Why are they going to listen to me? What do I have to bring to this? Why are they going to listen? They're not going to listen. They're not going to follow me. Are you kidding me? I've been in Midian for 40 years. They're not going to listen to me. Why do you want me? And Moses' reluctance really is about fear. It's fear, not so much that God's gotten it wrong, but it's a reluctance to take up this task. It's a reluctance to set aside his life for this, because that's what's being asked of him. He's also reluctant to take on this intimate knowledge of God, because once you do that, you can't go back. You can't unsee it. You can't then pretend you didn't know. Oh, sorry, I had no idea. Yeah, that doesn't work. You knew. You knew. I can't turn away if I know. So that's what Moses is dealing with too. What am I supposed to do with this? And the way God sets it up ultimately is really fascinating, because we're going to see it throughout the Old Testament. This is Moses is the prophet. He's the one speaking on behalf of God. He's the one receiving the word of God as the prophet. But Aaron ultimately becomes the priest, the one who leads worship, the one who leads the people in the ritual. But Aaron's not the one in charge. Moses is. And it's going to happen again when we get to Jeremiah. Jeremiah the prophet, Eleazar's the priest. And God's talking to Jeremiah. It happens again with Nehemiah and Ezra when they come back from exile. Nehemiah is the prophet, the one they're talking to, and Ezra's the priest who's working on all the details. I kind of like it in Presbyterian world to having, the moderator or the EP and the stated clerk. Because the clerk's job is to run all the details and all the paperwork and all the stuff and keep it all moving, keep it moving. But they're not the ones setting the vision. I mean, it's the same idea, that it's a two-part process. It's a partnership. Think of all the great partnerships in life, in entertainment, in television, in movies. Think of all the great partnerships. I just saw the cutest clip on this yesterday that had a whole bunch of them, all the way back to, Laurel and Hardy and on through the ages. And they even had Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I almost said Fred Rogers. No, not Mr. Rogers. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, all these partnerships, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, and just go on and on and on and on and on. All these partnerships that the two of them were so much more than the sum of their parts. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Moses and Aaron. They're going to be more than the sum of their parts. But what's always fascinated me with this is how God pivots at the end. And pivots and says, okay, look, fine. You don't want to do this, I get it. But you're still going to do it. But here, I'll give you Aaron to do it with you. To, in a sense, kind of share the load, share the burden, share the word. Now go. I mean, to me, that's kind of a good parent, isn't it? I mean, there's things you just have to go do. You're going to have to go do this. So I'll tell you what. I'll give you this. You're going to have to go learn how to ride this bicycle if you want to go do whatever it was. I remember being told that. Because there's no one who can drive you. You're going to have to learn to drive the two-wheeler by yourself. Yes, you're 7, but you're going to have to learn to ride the two-wheeler by yourself. Oh, and by the way, it was like 1.5 miles down the road with no sidewalks. But it was fine. It was like, 1981. It was great. No problem. No helmets. Pfft, who needs those? And yeah. So for a little while, I got the training wheels because I was not sure about this. Because one of the things I know about myself too is I'm super klutzy. I don't have a good feel for all my senses sometimes. and for my sense of balance. And that's another sign too I should have taken note of years ago, that I don't have a great sense of that, which is why I can't play baseball. I can't sense where things are coming from sometimes. Makes it really fascinating when things go flying around. But this understanding of how does that work? How does that work? How does that happen? Because, Moses has run out of excuses, as I've said. There's no excuses left. And God's like, you're going to do this, but here, let me give you a little hand, a little crutch for a while, and we'll see if we can't make this work. But how fascinating that God isn't successful persuading Moses to do this on his own. Because he isn't. God is not successful persuading Moses to do this alone. So how different would the contest of Pharaoh been? Might it have been different if it had just been Moses alone, the way God intended? Would it have gone on as long as it did? Would there have been as many issues and as problems? I don't know. That's a fascinating thing to think about. Would it have been different if we hadn't had to involve Aaron? Play any game of telephone.